And now I'm going to be talking about Labour's race baiting on Twitter. So if we scroll up, this is Annalise Dodds. Judging by the teeth, she's the daughter of Ken Dodds. Do you want to click on her picture? I'm not joking about the teeth. Wait to click on click on her face.
Profile.
Up, yeah, click on her face.
Oh
yeah,
my God.
Yeah, she could eat an apple through a tennis racket.
We're on
but yeah,
YouTube,
if we go back
I can't be too mean, but she does look related to AOC.
Why can't you be mean?
Well,
on YouTube?
Guidelines.
Oh,
and
really?
Such. Yeah, man.
Geez.
And that's how they got Leafy.
What happened with Leafy?
Well, he got taken off. He got kicked off of YouTube altogether for making insulting remarks towards people like Pokimane.
Oh, really?
Yeah, did
maybe
you not
I shouldn't
know
do that. Oh, well, it was just a little gag. But
oh, yeah, no, I know exactly.
Just a little gag. So if we go back, let's not look at her teeth anymore in case we get in trouble. So she said, Annalise Dodds, she's the MP for Oxford East, not far from here. Oh, yeah. And she's the Shadow Women and Equalities Secretary, very important post. So she says that under the Tories, 4 in 5 black people have less than £1,500 in savings to cope with soaring bills. Labour's energy plan would cut £200 off household energy bills, and we'd bring in a Race Equality Act to tackle structural racial inequality at its source in the NFL. So, you know, a couple of things here. She's blaming the Tories for black people, 4 in 5 black people not having savings. I'm not entirely sure it's the Tories' fault. I'd like to see our workings on that. And also Labour want to introduce an energy plan, and they want to bring in this Race Equality Act. So actually, if we look at the quote tweets on this, they're amazing. So it turns out that Annalise gets paid £1,500 each month from the public just for her rent. Ooh. Which, yeah. If we see more quotes.
Why not spread the wealth? Come on.
There's like nearly 1,000 quote tweets, and they're all just slamming her. So if we scroll through them, we'll see some funny ones. A lot of people saying, what about white people? Hey, there's me! I did one.
There you are.
I said, ugh, so depressing to see the Labour Party so racial division to try and scrape a few votes, and a Race Equality Act in this context sounds suspiciously like a tax on whiteness. I don't see how any of this is aiming towards racial harmony. And it's true. I mean, parties that are seen as being on the far right, that deal with, the anti-immigration or whatever, they're accused of dividing people along racial lines. Labour do exactly the same thing. And I think the Labour Party, if we see the next one, the Labour Party, just scroll down a bit. So the Labour Party openly ignoring white people for votes. So there's certainly a feeling Labour used to be the party of the working class, and
certainly not anymore.
Definitely not anymore.
Yeah,
They've completely swallowed
cosmopolitan middle class city dwellers,
the metropolitan elites who have the time to study all this wokest stuff and follow this new religion, and they've completely abandoned their working class roots. And particularly if you see in post-industrial northern towns like Rotherham, Rochdale, places like that, not only have they abandoned their traditional working class voters, but they've happy.
Imported a whole new class of voters.
They imported a new class of voters who around 85% to 90% of this particular demographic block vote Labour, and also they just sweep the crimes committed by that bloc against the white working class children. They sweep them under the carpet. Anyone who mentioned grooming gangs, if social workers, healthcare workers, council staff, whatever, brought it up, they were sent on diversity training. They were demoted. It's really shocking. And Labour MPs even said, we need to,
But anything about anti-Semitism, keep that nice hush hush.
Oh, anti-Semitism! Oh my God,
that appealed to these new class.
It's almost like because they were so intent on pushing down all these bubbles in the wallpaper of other racism, anti-Semitism was allowed to grow to. And for some reason, Jews are seen. I mean, they're seen as right wing. I don't know if that's because there's obviously a cultural tradition with Jews of owning business and property and stuff. But they're seen as conservative. But they're not seen as a minority. This is the interesting thing about wokeism, because minority means there's not many of them.
And just ask what people go.
And they get persecuted. So I mean, worldwide, there's like a few million Jews. We're talking very low numbers. Like
I think it's 15 million.
15 million Jews globally. You know what I mean? Whereas there's 2.6 billion Muslims. So, but still somehow Muslims are a minority, and Jews are not a minority.
Well, Jews are white passing, so you need to understand that they benefit from the privilege that you and I get.
A lot of my Muslim mates are, people assume they're white, and then it's great. Like my mate Darius, he gets people. I mean, he's not Muslim, but he's Iranian, so he's, I guess, lapsed or whatever. But like, he gets people, saying, "Oh, it's a white man." All these like white lefties will be like, "Oh, it's a white man. Oh, we're hearing a white man." He's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! I am a person of color."
Actually, here's my card to prove it.
And then they panic. It's delicious. But yeah, anyway, so basically there's 1,000 quote tweets just slamming her because obviously everybody can see that it's racially divisive. If we move on to the next one, we've already got lots of racial equality acts. So if we move on to the next thing. So the Race Relations Act in 1965 prohibited discrimination on grounds of race and established the Race Relations Board. So that would conciliate discrimination complaints. That was added to in 1968. So, for a long time, for decades and decades and decades, we've been, racially aware and putting it through legislation to deal with any discrimination. So if we move on to the next tab. The next one is further down. It says in 1968 the act was extended the protection. I think we're missing a tab here, but anyway, in 1968 the act was extended to give protection against discrimination beyond public places to include employment and housing. So you couldn't, you used to get signs on rent properties in London, like boarding houses that said "No blacks, no dogs, no Irish."
In that order.
Yeah, basically in that order, and now that's illegal, and that's a great thing. You know what I mean? That's fantastic. So then that was extended to employment and housing. Then in 1976, it was updated. The act was extended, so the definition of discrimination was extended to include indirect discrimination. And the individuals also gained the ability to take discrimination complaints directly to civil courts or industrial tribunals. And the Commission for Racial Equality was given responsibility to enforce legislation and conduct research to inform government policy on race relations. Although the former head of the CRE has since been quite critical of all of this.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you know what indirect discrimination means? Because to me, that sounds like the whole CRT idea just slipping in there of, if there are disparities, no matter what the causes are, that immediately means racism. We don't need to look into it any further.
Yeah, and also people, I think, and especially with the current woke definition of racism, where it's systemic, it's in the air and the buildings and the power structures around you. It's not something that's tangible and provable and objective.
You just breathe racism
you're
out.
Breathing. You're imbued with. It's like an original sin. It's not something you can be free of. So the old definition of racism was at least objective. You could say this person said or did a racist thing against that person. Now it's much more ephemeral. And bear in mind, so then people can see racism anywhere. Because, man, there's TV shows where people are walking around seeing ghosts. And so if people can see ghosts, how am I supposed to believe that these people are really seeing racism?
I mean, have you seen that new trailer for that film or show, whatever it is, Everything's Going to Be All White?
No.
That's really going to help with racial tensions in America. It's basically just everyone going, white people are evil. Did you know that white people hate black people just inherently in their bones?
This just sounds like every advert I've seen for the past year and a half.
Yeah.
So, if we move on, then there was the Race Relations Act in 2000, another amendment, which places a general duty on all public authorities to promote racial equality. For instance, by consulting with minority ethnic communities and considering and monitoring the impact of policies. So this was in following the Stephen Lawrence inquiry. Stephen Lawrence obviously was killed in a horrific racist attack in South London, and the police fumbled the ball because they were racist. And I've worked in policing. Police have made huge strides to reduce racism in policing. So, but the Stephen Lawrence inquiry and everything is sort of what's fed into a lot of what's happening now. So Labour now have this Race Equality Act. If we move on to the next bit, that's not it. But is it on the next one? Maybe it's not. But maybe we just don't have it. Anyway, I'll just explain it. So Labour's Race Equality Act is going to fix George Floyd's death, basically, because having somebody killed at the hands of a policeman in Minneapolis can be fixed by a party in the UK. So
Yeah, what does this have to do with us?
so they're going to introduce, ethnic pay gap reporting, data by salary band and promotion rates, training and pay reporting. So they want to introduce equity instead of equality. So because we often hear about how diversity is good because there's cultural differences, but maybe some of those cultural differences lead, even if there's equality, will lead to different outcomes.
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
Like a Scottish person or whatever, somebody from the Highlands might want to work outside in a forest, for example. You know what I mean? And then that's perhaps less well paid than somebody from Surrey who wants to work in some blooming insurance company. You know what I mean?
Yeah, people have different ideas of what they want to do with their lives that can be influenced by their culture, and that can lead to vastly different outcomes before you get to anywhere where racism could occur.
Yeah. And we see this with, the gender pay gap. There's, if anything, women earn slightly more if they don't have children.
Yes, that is what all the studies have shown.
Yeah, and like obviously having a baby, because men can't, unless you include trans men.
That's very transphobic of you, Leo. How could you?
Biological males can't have children. So, there's an issue there with the women sort of have to make the baby inside them and squeeze it out. That's how baby making works. You know what I mean? So, then the women quite often, they don't want to just like chuck the kid in a chest of drawers and go back to work. They want to look after the kid. Luckily,
women are known for liking their children.
Luckily, my fiance, Aaron, far less than my fiance, so I'm going to be the one staying at home watching DVDs.
There you go.
Getting drunk.
And
but yeah,
breastfeeding.
so Labour, they've blamed the lack of savings, they've blamed all this racial inequity on the Tories. And if we move to the next thing, who's got Britain's most ethnically diverse cabinet ever? Well, it's the Tories. They got like so many, some great, and very possibly the next Prime Minister.
Probably.
Rishi Sunak is certainly in the front running. So yeah, the Tories have the Tories have had two female leaders, prime ministers, and they've got the most racially diverse cabinet, and they are, because the thing about the Tories is it's not about tokenism with them. With the left, it's all about tokenism. With the Tories, they just want to see if you're doing it. So we can take, we can say the Tories certainly on measurable statistics aren't that racist. If we move to the next thing, I wanted to look and see if the fact that black people in this country, 4 out of 5 black people don't have savings over £1,500, is that because
is that
of the
true,
Tories?
or have they just pulled it out their arse?
Because in other countries, the Tories aren't in power, particularly in Africa.
Really?
So you think if the Tories aren't in power in Africa, you'd expect.
What happened to the empire?
You'd expect people there to have more savings. So if we move on to the next thing, it's very hard to find out the information about household savings in Africa. But this person did some research. Slide 8 says that household savings in Africa is classified into formal and informal, but more than 80% of the saving is not done in a financial asset. So they don't. There's a lot of reasons for this. There's institutions can go bust and the banknotes are worthless. There's a lot of inflation and all the rest of it. So, and slide 16 gives even more information about that. So all the constraints to savings in Africa, so fragmented financial markets, there's a high cost of actually accessing savings and all this sort of there's currency devaluation, risk of the institution you're investing in failing or going bankrupt.
So it's basically all to do with infrastructure problems that they have over there.
Yeah, and also there's a poor rule of law, poor regulatory framework, and a lot of corruption and a lot of costs, and their currencies just aren't as stable. But anyway, the thing that I did find, which was actually on the Wikipedia page, was in African. Well, basically what I'm saying is, if you're in Burundi, you're
probably going to have less money saved up than if you're in England.
You got less money saved up than if you're in England. And the Tories, I did some other research, the Tories aren't in power in Burundi.
Really?
Yeah, so
Really?
You can't blame that on the Tories.
I also reckon if you're a white guy in Burundi, you've probably got a lot less money saved than a white guy in England as well.
Yeah. Probably.
in all likelihood.
Yeah, we have no idea. Moving on to the next thing. The other thing that Labour want to introduce, I'll just rattle through this because we need to get to the end so you can do your next bit, is Labour want to introduce this sort of energy plan. They say they're going to get families £200 to ease immediate crisis costs. They're going to fund it partly through a windfall tax on the North Sea. Oh my God! But you know how much
More
the North
taxes.
Sea?
I can't wait.
Taxes. You know,
Bloody hell.
Obviously, windfall taxes are bad. It's like a state grab. It's a state theft of these private companies have gone in to invest in extracting this oil and gas, and then the state's like, oh well, you did a good job there. Let me take all that money you made.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's just a form of wealth redistribution.
So then the next time the companies are going to be like, well, we're not going to invest in this because it's risky anyway.
Them away.
It's risky anyway. We've got to pay for all this. We might not find anything. There's it could be expensive. Things can go wrong. But also if things go well, you're going to steal all the money off us. So if we move to the next tab, you can see the revenue from the North Sea. I mean, bear in mind in the 80s, we're getting billions from the North Sea. Even back in like 2008, 2009, we're looking at like 12.5 billion. And that's like the government revenues. That's just the tax that was going to the government. Now it's absolutely plummeted because there just isn't as much. The oil fields
a dip,
are
hasn't
spent,
it?
and also the SNP and the Greens who are in power in Scotland are trying to stymie the development of oil fields. Patrick Harvey, a Green MSP, Green member of the Scottish Parliament, said that anybody who wanted to work in oil or gas in Scotland was far right. So,
okay.
I mean, bear in mind,
I guess that's me then.
words like far right, fascist, neo-Nazi have been completely decoupled from their original meaning, and now just mean somebody who doesn't go along with the orthodoxy, doesn't go along with the woke establishment. And we can see, a few years ago, actually, the government lost money on the North Sea, had to spend more than it made on the North Sea.
That was obviously them just taking all the money and distributing it to poor people, presumably, maybe.
Well, I think there just wasn't enough being made. The price, I remember that was great. I remember it was like it's like £1.60 or whatever for a litre of petrol. It was it was just over £1. It was beautiful.
Oh, that was
driving everywhere.
That was a great year, actually.
Yeah. So, and if we move on to the next tab, so they're also saying, Labour are saying, the energy prices have spiked because of the Tories. No, energy prices have spiked for a lot of reasons, but a lot of it is to do with green tariffs and the focus on net zero and environmental policy. So, for a start, around 15% to 27%, depending on where you live, 15% to 27% of your energy bill is purely a tax to pay for insulation for poor people and to subsidise the construction of windmills and renewable energy.
Thanks, Tories. Thanks for that.
Windmills have a huge, renewables have a huge upfront cost. So a megawatt hour of power from gas costs $29. Guess how much it is from wind? $840. If you want to set it up like right now. Obviously, once you've built the windmill, it doesn't need to be powered by gas, so it's got, the over its lifetime, the cost comes down.
So we're all paying probably like twice as much in the next coming months for a Tory vanity project.
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
Something that we all know doesn't work as well as it should.
Yeah,
when they could be investing in nuclear.
Solar is even more. Solar is $1,000. So compare $29 for gas, and also not only that, we've got this focus on net zero, so they've been cutting back on. I don't know why they've been cutting back on nuclear because it's safe and clean.
It's
and
the most renewable energy out there.
The most renewable and the safest. Like the amount of radiation you absorb from nuclear power is equivalent to eating a banana a year. So it's not it's not dangerous at all. But the focus on net zero means that we haven't been investing, and energy companies, I think in the next tab you can see, or it might actually no, back in that tab and scroll down. Energy companies and governments keep scrolling, haven't been investing in. Keep going. There's a graph. Keep going.
Just keep going until Leo says.
Yeah. Basically, we haven't been in here.
Oh, here we go.
No, that's not it. Sorry,
okay.
keep going. So another issue is China has been importing a lot more gas. Yeah. Keep going down. Keep going.
Keep going, John. Just keep going, man.
There we go. There we
it
go.
is.
So energy investment, this is where it should have gone, is the dotted line, and where it actually is gone down and like flatlined. So people haven't been investing in getting more energy. So obviously the price of energy has skyrocketed. Everybody thought that, windmills are going to power, but if the wind stops blowing, we've got no power. So, this focus on net zero is fine when the wind blows. When the wind stops blowing, we suddenly need Russia's oil and gas to power our power stations, and we don't have it. And obviously, Russia's got us over a barrel, so prices have spiked, and now prices have gone up. So the problem is, there's other issues as well, like China's using a lot more gas, but the big problem is this focus on green policy. Scrap the green policy, start fracking, build nuclear power stations. Everything's great.
Everything's looking rosy.
Everything's looking rosy, and I think I can end that there.
Yeah.
I've got the picture of the gerbil if you want to see it.
Let's just see a picture of a gerbil. Let's go on. Is it on here?
It's not.
I think it's the link that's just underneath that, John. If you just want to pop that in quickly, just for a little nice.
Because last week I was talking about gerbils and how cool they are, and how Genghis Khan had the first ever pet gerbil. And so somebody, I can't remember who it was now, but somebody made this mock-up of, what I would describe as the perfect utopian society. So there's a nice...
I trust that gerbil more than I do Boris.
So do I. He's got a more carefully groomed coat.
That's true.
And he's carrying me in his paw. So he's taking me...
taking you on a wild ride.
Yeah, on a ride through Tokyo.
So there you go, Tories. If you want to stop being hated by everyone and want to stop that energy price rise...
Build some massive gerbils.
If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as this series on World War I Bo has been doing, and the Epoch series with special guest Apostolic Majesty. If you want to find out what else is coming out on the website, you can also follow us on Getter at lotuseaters_com. Thank you and goodbye.